This is Hootie Hoo from the Sports Deli Podcast, and we in the Sports Deli support Alicia Berber, head women's basketball coach at Riverside Community College, 100% in fighting against the injustices that have happened in her workplace for the last 2+ decades, into the third decade, for nearly 20 years. That has affected her state of mind, her family, players, and having said that, this is about equality in women's sports. This is about Title IX. This is about setting a precedent that we are not going to stand by and allow these types of things to happen. I need this video, which I'm going to post every day until justice is served, to go out to the masses. I have invited a number of people, including Jay Billis, Sarah Spain, the Legends of the Ball, Cheryl Miller, the GOAT, in support of Alicia Berber, head women's basketball coach at Riverside City College, and I need you to read the lawsuit. It is on my website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. Scroll down, click the Title IX link, and you'll find the lawsuit. I'm going to highlight some of the things that are in the lawsuit. She has suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, severe depression and anxiety, insomnia, mood swings, fatigue, decreased energy, nightmares, agitation, irritability, loss of appetite and concentration, daily headaches, and related conditions. She has taken Zoloft, Ativan, Celexa, Trazodone, NyQuil to alleviate her symptoms, but the underlying stressors remain. She's received therapy, eventually became dependent on prescription drugs, including Vicodin, Ambien, muscle relaxers, Oxycontin, and others to help her sleep. This has led her to be anxious and jumpy, nauseated when driving to work. She had a gallbladder attack and surgery, including other surgeries and procedures for back and knee pain. Also, because of stress and anxiety, she has injured herself in other ways at work, including in her shoulders and toes. I mean, these are unbearable fucking conditions, people. Afraid that her body could not have a healthy baby in terms of being in the midst of her career and the stress that accompanied it, she never again tried to become pregnant. And in fact, in 2008, when she did become pregnant, Barry Meyer had told her to not have any more children or she would never get a full-time position at RCC. As a result, her relationships with her family and friends, professional colleagues, has been seriously disrupted. Unbelievable. Again, she's been underpaid, underappreciated. So take a listen to some of the things that are highlighted here. Her original athletic director, Barry Meyer, ran the department like a fraternity, sexual, misogynistic, and racist hijinks, and attacked those who opposed him. She consulted with human resources and was discouraged from filing a claim of harassment against him. Besides her, he verbally berated and physically threatened and verbally threatened equipment manager John Garcia in her presence, which is a form of harassment. He later told Alicia Berber, "Don't fuck with me." She felt physically and emotionally threatened and exhausted. She felt as if it was a racial and ethnic discrimination and harassment, and this initiated the investigation. Instead of putting Mr. Meyer on leave, they let him continue with his regular duties. He wasn't even removed pending the investigation. Mr. Meyer continued to behave in this manner and caused other department members to retaliate against Miss Berber, drafted and circulated several petitions against Miss Berber in an effort to get her terminated. Mr. Meyer contrived a league rule violation. The athletic department began to shun Miss Berber, to openly harass her. At one meeting in particular, she was treated like a leper and openly chastised by her colleagues for her opposition to Mr. Meyer's conduct, in an apparent effort to find dirt on her and undermine her. She was also rude and abusive towards Mrs. Berber's student athletes. Now listen to this. In November of 2011, Loudon and Meyer purposefully came close to running over Alicia as they were driving into the athletic department parking lot. It was also found that Mr. Meyer had pornography on his computer. And at a holiday party, he referenced Alicia's breasts, her nipples in particular, to the brownies that were on the table, in public, in front of people. Because of Mr. Meyer's outlandish and outrageous conduct, Alicia was alone and struggling for survival. RCC continued to harass Miss Berber, finding new ways to discriminate against her and treat her like a second-class employee. The new athletic director came in, singled out Miss Berber, and diminished her fundraising ability and authority. On September 6, 2012, the athletic trainer spoke openly with students about Alicia's workers' compensation case violating the law. Alicia and her program were denied access to Wheelock Gymnasium, even though all other coaches were allowed access. She was denied courses to teach, and they were given to much less experienced football coaches, in particular a health class that she had been asking to teach for a number of years. She had money left off her paycheck on purpose. Accidentally. Her signature was forged. She was called a liar. She was forced to work from a wheelchair, humiliating her even though it was not required. The athletic director touched her leg in order to inappropriately find out if she was wearing a knee brace. And his response was, "I'm your supervisor. I can do it." Like, man, you can't make this shit up. Alicia put paper up in the window of her office because she was so afraid of people watching her. She continued to be threatened. It caused incredible public humiliation, embarrassment, and grief, emotional distress. The second athletic director finally resigned in 2015, 3 years later. It really makes me want to throw up. I'm trying to get to the next part of this, and I've done this several times, but I can't even believe these people are human. In 2015, the new men's basketball coach told her that Jim Elton, the former men's tennis coach, basically told her that they didn't want her there in public. She had classes canceled numerous times, even though Steve Siglock, not to be confused with the cock guy, ensured that male coaches did not get their classes canceled or jeopardized. And there's so many other things in this lawsuit. You guys you got to read it. It's just mind-blowing. This Siglock character manipulated the system so she would have so many classes dropped because they conflicted with other core courses that the students had to take. So therefore, they couldn't obviously take her courses, and this was done on purpose. He yelled at her at one point and said not to forget to turn in her census report, and he publicly announced loudly that he was evaluating her this year. Unfucking believable. Years of losing out on tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and losing her house. The women's basketball program was not afforded equal access to the weight room. But after the third athletic director, Jim Wooldridge, contacted Siglock, not to be confused with the cock guy, the cocker, the cockorama, the cock. Nothing was done about it. Nothing changed. Siglock would schedule meetings outside of legal times according to the contract. There's countless other examples of the athletic department violating the collective bargaining agreement and holding themselves above the policies while falsely asserting violations against Alicia. Berber brought up her discomfort with sexual comments and gestures the male football coaches and players made against her in the past. At one point, Mr. Wooldridge said, "I'm so disappointed with you for bringing that up in front of the college president." He didn't just say it, he exploded and slammed the table. Time and time again, Siglock has installed his friends and male coaches to the best positions, classes, and instructional time slots, overlooking Alicia's needs and leaving her and her female students to fend for themselves. Other men's programs in particular were allowed full access to the weight room. This isn't just some random person who's a softball coach coming to coach women's basketball. She's in the Hall of Fame. She played D1 basketball. Now, to the most recent events after my conversation with her, she's had to have peace officers and police officers outside of the gymnasium because of the conduct of the men's basketball coaches and the men's basketball players. Yelling at her, calling her names, coming into her practice, disrupting her practice in the middle of her practice numerous times. And after a meeting between her and the men's basketball coach and several other administrators, the men's basketball coach had a tantrum, calling her a liar time and time and time again, even though the evidence has been overwhelming against him and the assistant coaches and the players. 10 minutes before the end of her practice, the first day after this meeting, there were basketball players heard by her players and her calling her names, slamming the ball violently against the door. The first day after this meeting where they agreed that the men's basketball program were not to come into the gym until 40 minutes past the hour when their time slot allowed them to come in. So the harassment continues. The retaliation continues, and it has to stop. And again, I will post this video every day until there is justice. This is completely unacceptable. I can't even imagine going through a couple of these things, let alone going into the third decade of what she's had to deal with. It's literally unthinkable. Equality in women's sports. Most of you don't know about this story. I need this story to go viral. I need everyone to know about this story. I need you to share this with every media outlet, with everybody that you know. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world with regards to the war and Ukraine and the former president and midterm elections. But if you're a daughter, if you have daughters, if you have nieces, if you're a niece, we need everyone's support. Please don't stay silent about this. Share a post, like the post, comment on the post. Don't say it's not your problem, because I've learned nothing else in the last couple of years. One thing that you think is not your problem then later becomes your problem. This is Hootie Hoo from the Sports Daily Podcast. Thanks for watching. Until next time.